It's always been the Jews. Hi, welcome to Bigger with Webster, and I'm your host, Stefania Webster, and on our show we dare to ask the hottest, most controversial questions. Are black people ruining the West? Could the gays survive if we threw them into a volcano? Should we drown witches? Do trannies have souls? Truly outrageous, provocative, scientific questions. And while we're on the topic of trannies, the disgusting, rapist, suicidal, cross-dressing maniacs, let's talk about the latest invention of the left. Transgender children. Do they exist? Do they have souls? How does the left want to convince you to lopside your 8-year-old dick and to turn your Timmy into their Tammy tranny? 7 answers. First, the left. It's the foundation. These morally bankrupt pedophiles, moralistic, gender Marxist cocks will do whatever they can to take your children out of the loving bounds of the nuclear family that existed forever and ever and ever and ever, and turn them into disgusting sex dolls. Truly appalling. Then, second step, the anti-science movement. Gender activists hate science because it gets in the way of their madness. But I don't hate science. I know science. I love science. Here are 3 crapped out studies that in no way contradict my argument. I know you won't read them. Hey, George, he's the new guy here. How many trannies does it take to change a light bulb? None. They all committed suicide. Laugh. Third argument. False compassion. What do you do when you have literally no argument? You prey on people's feeling. But here, on Bigger with Webster, we don't do feelings. Fuck your feelings, in fact. We only do science. Science that doctors nowadays refuse to do because of the left cuckoldry. Did you know that the left want your 5-year-old to cut his dick off, take blockers, and then hormonal therapy in that order? Is there nothing they'll stop at? My manager is telling me to calm down. But fuck my manager. I'm doing this because I care about the children. I love them, really. And I know that the left only wants to hurt them. Not me, though. Did you know that transgenders have suicide rates equal to those of Holocaust survivors? So stop turning your children into infertile trannies that can fight against the invaders, for fuck's sake! Knowing that, you'd think that parents would turn their children away from hormone therapy, right? Wrong! You're all wrong! No, what they do is that they don't give them the therapy that they need, which works in 95% of cases, like with those disgusting fags. And instead, what do? They give them hormone therapy. And why? Why, you may ask? No, what they do is that they don't give them therapy, which works in 95% of cases. But the gender Marxists corrupted the biggest health organizations, pediatricians and doctors with the help of the deep state and Swedish cocks. No, it doesn't work. George, where are the reptilians? Fifth argument. Euphemisms. We're on the 5th argument. Follow up, fucker. Drugs. Hormone blockers are drugs. So call them that. Do we give children the right to vote? Do we give children the right to get tattoos? Do we give children the right to consent to sexual acts? 9! But they don't care. They don't care. All that they care about is furthering their disgusting agenda. And what's next? When will the facts stop? Shut up, George. I know you're gay, but this is about the children. Fuck my cook. 6th argument. Transgender madness. They'll never stop. They'll never stop. I've been trying to warn people for decades, but they won't listen. What about to female athletes unfairly pitted against transgender hormone-filled freaks! Although, since soon anyone can transition, well, in 20 years you'll have some detransitioners on your hands, and who'll have warned you? Me! But they won't listen. Oh my God. It's all clear now. 7th step. We're all doomed. Now, the punishment for the heretic has always been the same. But I'm willing to be a bit more lenient this time, because you've been lied to. It's the Jews! It's always been the Jews! I'm telling you, they're turning the freaking kids' trends! They'll weaken us. They'll destroy Western civilization. And when the Arabs invade us, who will be there? Who has warned you? Me! I've warned you! I've warned you all along! It's the Jews! It's the George! Don't touch the camera! George, don't! Oh, hi. So, did you enjoy the show? I know I didn't. Probably going to find flour for the rest of my life on my bedroom floor. But that's no matter. And here I agree with Stephen, something which you never hear me say again, in that what's important are the children. But given the titanic amount of misinformation spread in the video, I think it would be good to set the record straight first. You know, if so many people aren't too hot about trans kids, I also believe that's because they don't really know what being trans means. So, first things first, let's define things. And to put Crowder at home, I'm going to read one of the studies he horribly misrepresented in one of his videos. So, gender identity disorder, the thing that makes you want to cut off your dick age 5, Crowder, is characterized by feelings of gender dysphoria associated with strong cross-dresser identification, as well as a persistent discomfort with one's natal sex. The most extreme form of GID, for which the term transsexualism is used by the International Classification of Diseases, transition, is accompanied by a strong wish for gender reassignment. Yes, I just read that, and yes, I spent a week reading papers like that, and no, I didn't like it one bit. Scientists, why do you have to do us like that? Throw some pizzazz in your turd flavor research papers to make them more palatable, why don't you? As you can imagine, most scientists, are on board with the idea that trans people are valid, that they are not rapists, that they're not pedophiles, and that they are not monsters. Despite a lot of people thinking the contrary, as proven by the recent Yaniv case, in which a complete stranger to the trans community was heralded as a major champion of the cause, because she was a pedophile, like all trans people. That rhetoric is too often used by conservatives. Well, mainly because they want to conserve society the way it is. It's in the fucking name, why are people surprised? Crowder is no stranger to that thinking nor that rhetoric, and in his video, which is about trans kids, but also adults and teenagers, more on that later, he talks about how the treatment given by therapists is in no use to help people out of their gender dysphoria. And to prove his point, he puts forward that Swedish study. If you're trans, you know what I'm talking about. That study, admittedly, is pretty impressive, lasting 30 years with 324 participants. That's very good. But the problem is that it clearly states that it didn't find a link between sexual reassignment surgery, SRS, and suicide. It also states that its goal is not to determine whether or not SRS is an effective treatment. It also supports the idea that social acceptance is beneficial to trans people. Oh, and lastly, it never fucking mentioned children, not once! SRS is an operation that you can get before you're 18, like what? But I understand, Stephen. Science is hard and, oh, you sweet, sweet lemony tart. You must be confused by your strange terminology. Luckily for you, The author of the study did an interview for the trans advocate and oh no, looks like that one didn't work too well, did it? I swear to fucking God, why am I even doing that? What works well, however, given the likes to dislike ratio and the comments, is his rhetoric. Clearly, people give a damn about what he has to say on the matter. And by what he has to say, I mean they crave that sweet, low-effort confirmation bias. But the goal, I think, is not just to confirm bias, it's to create more of it. That's why he opens the video on a very striking question: the difference between child performer and child abuse. He wants to spark fear, to contradict every effort made by the trans community to gain acceptance. And he does that through 3 points, like a well-oiled bigotry spouting machine. So, first, you ridicule the parents who want to help their children through hormone therapy. You know, what's condoned by all the major health organizations. Second, again about the parents, if they still decide to go through hormone therapy, social transition, etc., then that should be considered child abuse, and they should have their children taken away from them. That's the logical conclusion from Stephen's argument. Third, you deny children's autonomy. If you take away their capacity to know what they feel and to express it, then everything they say does not matter at all. Now, like the rest of you, that's at odds with the research we have. But who gives a shit about that pesky research if it doesn't confirm what I already believe in? Where's my cancer? That's also why Stephen has so little problem saying the things he says, people's bad knowledge of the topic. When someone strongly talks about a subject and seems to know his shit and effectively science-plains you about everything, well, if you're already dead set on your belief, you want to believe them. You're lazy. You're never going to read the studies. I mean, unless you like pain, you really should not. Like, down a bottle of vodka with some Xanax, the pain will go away immediately. That laziness, however, opens a scary door, because Stephen can basically say whatever he wants, and no one will hold him accountable. And with lies, the bigger, the better. Although, I can agree with Stephen on that one. Now, that John Doe doesn't know the difference between hormone therapy and gonadotropin-releasing hormone analogs. Yeah, no, that's normal. But someone like Stephen, who's supposed to have done his research, that's pretty redacted, eh? Now, about blockers or gonadotropin-releasing... No, I said no. One of the biggest problems Stephen seems to have about children transitioning is that you're supposed to give them hormone blockers. A drug known as hormone blockers. Or at least it would if children would fucking benefit from it! I swear half of this video is me going over simple as biology like it makes fucking difference. Anywho, so blockers, what are they? What do they do? Will they turn your child into an ex-non-binary person? Well, first, we have to understand puberty. And listen up, Stephen, I know this one is kind of hard for you. When you reach puberty, that's 10 to 14 years old for most people, your body starts to rage with hormones. Estrogen, if you got a girl's body, and testosterone, if you've got a boy's body. These hormones give you secondary sex characteristics, like hormones and breasts, and other attributes that will make you self-conscious for the rest of your life. And that, for trans people, is a real bummer. Because you can be a boy, but because you were born in a girl's body, you're stuck being 5'4" with double D's and giant hips. And you won't even be able to complain about that to your trans girlfriend because that's what they want. But blockers, sorry, the drug known as blockers, they're not really new. Before 2007, blockers were administered to children who were getting in puberty far too early. We're talking like 8-year-olds with giant tits. And 8 is not an appropriate age to worry about your breasts. That few years later and for the rest of your life. But from 2007 on, blockers were started to be administered to children who were just entering puberty. That's why they're called puberty blockers. You don't give them to 5-year-olds, they haven't even reached puberty yet, you stupid grasshole! And blockers, they're really what they just sound like. They put a pause, a hold on puberty. Though Stephen seems to disagree with me. But fuck Stephen! Because in this particular instance, he can't really pull out a study that would prove his point. So he pulls out a study about hormone therapy. And why does he do that? Because he knows that studies which he would like to find do not exist. Yes, sorry, blockers seem to be safe to administer to children. Now, not everything is perfect in TransTown. Scientists, for instance, don't seem to really know the long-term effect of taking hormone blockers. They don't know, for instance, the importance of hormones on the development of the brain. However, they all agree that it can be given pretty safely to children. Otherwise, they wouldn't give it to them, Stephen! And if they don't cure gender dysphoria altogether, that's the role of hormone therapy, they can prevent the appearance of really unwanted changes, which will make the lives of transgender people really worse. And no, Stephen, blockers don't make you stay trans. It's just that when you've reached the ripe old age of 14, you usually know these kinds of things. Crap, it's starting to rain outside. Well, baby, I'm going to change up, alright? My tits are freezing off and it's cold outside. See you soon. Okay, here she comes again. What? Look, we can't always look like bitchy CEOs. Sometimes you've just got to be more laid back. Leave me alone, Mom! It's late. Okay, let's do this. Oh, crap. Okay, where were we? Yes, my gun! I couldn't find Xanax in the room. Speaking of drugs, one of the features of the right on YouTube is that it loves to pretend that it loves science. Like I love to pretend that I was not queer when I was 15. And yet, strangely, a lot of their time is devoted to criticizing scientists they disagree with. That means scientists who were accused of having gone full leftists, which basically means that their findings contradict their worldview. It's not sorry. In the present case, Crowder spends an ungodly amount of time criticizing any scientist that is present in the video. I've noted a white lab coat, color me convinced. Trans activist doctors, very good. That's your feeling, very nice. And they practice on gender theory, not science. Love it! Now, does Crowder bring any study, any proof, any shred of evidence that would suggest that major health organizations have been co-opted by gender Marxist activists? Well, fucking no! Strangely enough, though, that kind of behavior should paint anyone as a nutcase, alongside flat earthers and Karen's "my child is becoming autistic because I've vaccinated him," which is somehow worse than him being dead. However, Stephen has developed a sort of ironclad defense to that attack. You see, to his audience, it's not that he hates science, nor do they. In fact, they love to say that science is good, and on that we can agree. No, their problem lies in the fact that, supposedly, the scientific process altogether has been corrupted by gender Marxist cocks. Therefore, Stephen can paint himself as some sort of true science soldier, alongside Galileo and other boring assholes who lived like 500 years ago. And that tactic is very important when dealing with topics such as this. You know that your position is indefensible. You know that the science is against you. But you know that if you go full in as the Loyola, even though you might channel some anger and some intuitions, ultimately people are going to think that you're a nutcase and they won't want to follow you. And so, what's extraordinary is that Stephen created that fantasy world in which all the doctors are lying because, once again, they don't practice any science but gender theory, and he is the only one telling the truth. Then you get to look cool and rational on YouTube. Two very similar worlds on the internet, even though you're more sensitive than a baboon's sunburned buttocks and a total bigot. Bigotry. Society. Why are you so bigoted? Well, least I know is that I piss on you all. But society, why does it take so much suffering to make you budge even 1 inch? You've got all your life to answer that question. Now, when you're first introduced to transgenderism, you might think that it makes no fucking sense, whether you're trans or not, and all your assumptions based on gender will more or less be shattered. I mean, you had a cute girl, next thing you know, she's got a bigger dick than you do. But instead of looking for more information, it seems that a lot of time people forget their brains on their nightstands and decide to believe the first twat who speak a bit convincingly about the matter. Which leads, obviously, to massive amounts of misinformation. The problem, though, is that that kind of misinformation isn't without consequences. When it comes to parents, for instance, it can lead them to be extremely critical of their children, very harsh, when they don't throw them on the streets altogether. And that's why, according to every study on the matter, trans people are so much more likely to commit suicide or self-harm. Because when society treats you like shit every day, it doesn't make you want to keep on living now, does it? And if Stephen is as concerned as he says about transgender people and their suicide rates, and if he loves science nearly as much as he says he does, then he'll stop shaming transness for what it is, and instead will strive to change society. Because it's society which is a problem, not trans people.
It's never me. I change society. It's like asking a schizophrenic. Well, what would you change? Would you change the demons clawing at your testicle? No, I change the world.
Police in New Smyrna Beach arrest a man who they say beat his transgender date that he met on Craigslist. 39-year-old Howard Owens was arrested last night after the victim ran half naked, screaming from Owens' home in New Smyrna Beach.
In your mind, you know, it depends what you think a real woman is, but do you think a trans woman is a woman?
No.
I happened across the street thinking that two other people were females, which they weren't. And a friend of mine was to realize, you know, that was a guy instead of a girl. And, you know, I was drunk, so I got raised, you know, and then I attacked.
But as far as that specific lie, I think that one of the problems that we have is this determination that men can become women and women can become men undermines some barriers between men and women that I think are useful and good.
The feds are already familiar with DeWanna Johnson, thanks to this videotape showing two MPD officers beating her inside the CJC earlier this year.
However, there is still one giant child elephant in the gender porcelain store that I haven't addressed. The fact that children who identify as trans in infancy overwhelmingly stop doing so in adulthood. And it might be the only truth in Crowder's video. And I say might because more recent study may change that altogether. So, these children, scientists have come up with a term to name them, which is desisters. Children who identify in infancy as trans, but when they come to teenagehood or adulthood, stop doing so, and generally become gay, lesbian, or even non-binary. However, the desire to clearly transition just disappears. That's why we don't allow children age 5 to cut their dicks off, Stephen. That would be pretty redacted, wouldn't it? When it comes to children, trans children, SRS, hormone therapy, blockers should not even be part of the conversation. The only conversation we should be having is about social transition, not bodily transition. And now that I've trimmed dead wood, Stephen, you lovely dot, you sweet goofus, you tender idiot. I can talk about more in depth about that. So, social transition, is it good or not? Well, according to Stephen over here, no. But honestly, and once again, fuck Stephen. And science, what does it have to say about it all? Well, like many things about the human mind, we don't really know. Sorry. What am I gonna do with my life? For some, you can allow your child to mingle with crossplay at home. For others, not even that, since most children will stop identifying as trans in teenagehood, allowing them to question their gender in such a visceral way will only make them more, well, confused when they get back to their original gender. Then again, for others, you should allow them to do whatever they want, mainly because the number of children who still identify as trans is clearly not a tiny minority, and instead, what we should do is develop a better system to recognize those who will stay trans from those who do not. See, Stephen, that's how science works. Less judging and more arguing. But then, if you just talk about social transition, you can't spark fear, right? That's why Stephen always talks about a child, a 5-year-old, cutting his dick off, because it sparks a very strong image, which sparks, in turn, strong fear and strong outrage. And more occasion to sell your shitty mugs. What's sure, though, is that trying to deter people from being trans, whether adults or kids, is a very bad idea. Judging people out of their transness never works. So, conclusion! Finally! And I might go back to sucking on skinny Satan. For you, Stephen, the problem has never been children. It has always been leftists. That underground force, capable, apparently, of making medicine altogether fall into madness. What a delightful program, you sweet degenerates! 20 years earlier, Stephen would have argued that society should not accommodate the gays whatsoever, and that instead they should get therapy. A point that, strangely enough, is still very alive. Oh my lord, there's nothing that lobotomy can do for you that nature didn't already do. That's why, Stephen, between you and me, it has never been about changing your mind. If you wanted your mind changed, you'd have opened a book, read studies, I know, high effort activities, but I will never change your mind, for monetary reasons alone. And if you ever react to that video, I know it will only be to the opening skit, because the rest is so bulletproof with research that you'd only make yourself look like an idiot. No, that video, believe it or not, I made it for the parents who have a trans child. As a parent, you must be terrified. You must ask yourselves all the time, why us? Why our child? And the idea that the first video treating of the subject that you will stumble upon is this one, no, just no. So, from me to you, here's the good advice. Your problem is probably that you feel lost and lonely. Luckily, the internet, though it smells sometimes like the armpits of Satan, has some places where you can discuss with other parents what you're going through. And also, another one, coming straight from a mom's mouth. Wanting to change gender isn't something you can discipline out of your child. It's not them being naughty or misbehaving. It's something deep inside. Even though I know it's hard, you must do whatever it takes to protect your child, to love them, to help them. Because at the end of the day, even though your child might not stay trans, they will always be your child. And that's what's really important. Well, you've made it this far. You're probably either very, very confused or a very, very strong leftist. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video. It's been a real pain in the ass to make because of all the research. It's just as boring as you can possibly imagine. But I really loved it. It's a topic very close to my heart, and the idea that someone like Crowder can, just wither his way out of here by sounding smart is terrible, because in the end, it's children we're talking about. If you'd like more, you can subscribe, you can leave a like, you can talk about me to your friends, and I'm going to be back in 3 weeks, I hope, with a new video on an even funnier topic. So see you then. Bye bye.